From the time they are young, Christian women are often sold a very specific promise. Stay devout, keep your standards high, and one day God will reward you with a faithful husband. But for millions of women, that day never arrives. They do everything right. They attend Bible study, they serve their communities, and year after year they watch the calendar turn, living in complete isolation. If you ask church leaders what to do about this, the advice is usually quite simple. Pray harder, guard your heart, and wait patiently for a man of faith. Women like Melanie White and Jasmine Holmes are waiting for a demographic ghost. This widespread singleness reveals a mathematical system that is systemically broken, independent of individual faith. This chart visualizes the demographic data gathered by the Institute for Family Studies. Among unmarried people under 50 who self-identify as Christian, we see a baseline majority of women, somewhere between 52 and 57%. But self-identifying on a survey is different from showing up on Sunday. When we filter this data to show regular, weekly church attendance, the disparity grows and the male bar shrinks. Finally, we apply the filter for devoutness. For an unmarried woman seeking a man who practices his faith, prays regularly, and holds orthodox beliefs, the pool drops to a microscopic fraction. There are roughly 85 eligible devout men for every 100 devout women. In historically black churches, the numbers collapse. We see a ratio graphic displaying a 2-to-1 disparity, less than 50 marriageable men for every 100 marriageable women. To see this at a local level, look at a typical congregation of 80 people. Basic demographics suggest only 11 unmarried adults under 50. Of those 11, 7 are likely to be women, and only 4 are men. The strict math of the church dating market makes a 1-to-1 monogamous marriage statistically impossible for millions of faithful women. Standard cultural reactions to this crisis follow a pattern. Bloggers and relationship experts tell single women to lower their expectations, blame men for failing to lead, or leave the church entirely. But the problem may not lie with the individuals or the standards. The flaw may be the rigid expectation of 1-to-1 monogamy itself. We have a historical precedent for this. The ancient texts that form the foundation of this faith already accounted for severe demographic imbalances. The Torah allowed for a specific failsafe during times of demographic scarcity, plural marriage or biblical polygyny. This ancient system served as a functional remedy, despite modern Western taboos. To understand this, we have to strip away the modern hypersexualized stigma associated with plural marriage. In the ancient world, this was a mechanical system for survival and community stability. When male populations were decimated by war or societal shifts, the biblical framework ensured that women were not left destitute, childless, or vulnerable. This allowance permitted multiple women to share in the economic provision and spiritual leadership of a single devout man, rather than facing a lifetime of isolation. Consider the massive crowds of faithful women currently locked out of family life. In the ancient world, they would have been part of an inclusive safety net. Biblical polygyny functioned as a compassionate safety net, ensuring family and community for women when the math of monogamy failed. If the Torah originally accommodated plural marriage to solve this exact demographic crisis, why does the modern church dogmatically enforce a 1-to-1 model? The answer is historical. The strict enforcement of prescriptive monogamy stems from Greco-Roman cultural integration into early Christianity, rather than a biblical prohibition. Over centuries, Western societal norms gradually overwrote the ancient failsafe, transforming a cultural preference into a rigid religious mandate. By enforcing prescriptive monogamy, the modern church upholds a Western cultural standard at the direct expense of millions of its own faithful women. The reality of the math is clear. Continuing to enforce 1-to-1 monogamy in a demographically imbalanced society guarantees a crisis of loneliness for Christian women. This forces us to ask whether we can separate our ingrained Western cultural conditioning from true biblical compassion. To solve the modern crisis of the unmarried believer, society must ask if the ancient, forgotten allowance of plural marriage is actually the compassionate solution the church needs today.